Welcome to Game.
Ooh, had a little delayed fade in there, Jason.
I like that. Jason with the finesse.
Very exciting.
You can tell the master is back at the controls today.
This podcast is his palette, and we are merely the paintings on the easel.
Canvas that he smears paint all over.
Smear me, Jason. Smear me.
The paint that he douses on the canvas. This
Like cream
analogy
cheese
doesn't extend very well.
on a bagel.
Starting closer to on time today, which is very exciting. But the artwork is clearly going to be in the pooper.
Hey guys, and welcome to T-Series.
Where we're already spilling it about our own team. Crazy.
Oh, the tea has been spilled. No, hey, welcome. Happy Tuesday to everyone.
We're back with another episode, and we are excited to be here.
Right, we missed last week because we were busy at Brandcast and the Creator Summit.
Which means we have a lot to catch up on and a lot to chitty-chat about, so we should probably get right into it. But beforehand, we need to discuss what we're drinking today.
What's in your cup, Stephanie?
So today, I'm actively trying to branch out. I've been playing it safe up till now on T-Series, but really
We're getting exotic now, ladies and gentlemen.
it's time to let loose.
Wow.
No, but actually,
T-Series gone wild, as it were.
There's been a great set of teas that's been floating around with our team for weeks, but I keep forgetting to actually fill up on it before one of these episodes. They are Harry Potter themed Hogwarts house teas, and we have these little sample.
I didn't know that this was a
of
thing.
all of them. Oh, I knew
until 5 minutes before we started. This sounds great.
Where I was like, Matthew, give me some of that Hogwarts tea. These are actually great. Today I'm drinking Hufflepuff, which is
Hold up.
What?
I got something great.
What?
You could say that you're literally having a house cup.
Oh no! Oh, get out!
The house, you have won the house cup, Stephanie.
You're kicked off this live stream. This podcast
Thought it was
does not
great.
contain Matthew anymore.
All right, well, good luck.
No, fine. These are officially produced by Riddle's Tea Shop, Superior Wizard Teas. The Hufflepuff House blend is apricot, white peach, vanilla, apple, and cinnamon. It evokes these warm, happy, loyal feelings of Hufflepuff.
Like the loyal Hufflepuff.
But I love actually how they're all themed after the houses. So the Slytherin one, for instance, is green chai, vanilla
Jason
green,
has something he needs to say to us.
cloves, and peppercorn. What?
Do a quick pause. I'm going to.
Are we restarting?
I'm not restarting the episode. I'm just gonna stop the encoder and send the signal again because the audio's out of sync.
Poop. All right.
That sucks.
Our audio's out of sync. Stay with us. We'll talk
man.
about the
More
Slytherin
about
house
the tea in a
in
second.
a minute.
Drink deep from the well.
Let's see if that fixed it.
Are we back right now?
Go on about your tea conversation.
We're back?
Are we back
Okay.
already? That was fast,
Oh,
buddy.
that was so.
Encoder's back, so.
Jason's good, man. Jason's good. Yeah. So Slytherin is a little bit spicy. Maybe it's up to a little mischief as a tea. It has
You could say its mischief has been managed.
Oh God. It's got cloves and peppercorn.
Ooh, peppercorn.
The
I don't want to
Ravenclaw
drink
one is,
peppercorn.
I guess, the smart one. Earl Grey, moonlight, blueberry, and coconut.
Wait, it is infused with moonlight?
Yes.
There is literal moonlight in this tea.
They opened up the tin and they were like, "Here, moonbeam, shine upon me." And I'm opening up the tin and I'm holding it up you'd hold it under a moonbeam. And anyway,
Get good, Ravenclaw.
I'm not.
Light oxidizes teas. That's why they're kept in that's actually, Stephanie taught me this one. That's how you can tell a tea that's serious versus a noob tea.
Yeah.
If it's coming in a clear or transparent case or jar
No
or
goodsies.
container,
No.
no goodsies.
Get out of there.
Yeah,
That's run
wannabe.
for the hills. That is not a tea that you want to be associated with.
No.
No, these are
Bad tea.
light sealed containers, which is exactly what tea should be in. Metal is preferred because none of the wood grain will leach into tea. Oh yeah, there's a whole thing.
Sorry, it's not just Earl Grey. It's Earl Grey Moonlight.
Exactly.
Just Earl Grey Moonlight.
This is not in any way sponsored, but I do like these so much that they're I feel like we should plug them. They're from something called Fandom Blends, and it has this website on the side called adagio.com. So I guess if you're interested, perhaps they still make them.
Wait,
I
who's
don't know.
Gryffindor? Gryffindor is Tiger Eye, Almond, Apple, and Cinnamon, and Kalon?
Yeah.
All right. There you
Anyway,
go.
so
Wow.
if you enjoy Harry Potter themed teas, which I very much am enjoying these, that's what I'm drinking today. Matthew, what are you drinking?
Should we be concerned that they're coming from Riddle's tea house? Like Tom Riddle? As in, did you just sell your soul to Voldemort? Are you a Death Eater, or should I say a Death Drinker?
I'm just saying maybe Death Drinker. Oh my God.
I'm full
You're
of it.
Full of, yeah,
I'm full of them
you're
today.
on a roll today.
I have 2 weeks to make up for.
No, these are it might be worth it, you know? Voldemort might be a small price to pay for a really great cup of tea.
Are you a Horcrux now, Stephanie? Have you become a Horcrux? Do you have 1/64th portion of Voldemort's soul within you?
That would be great.
Would it? Would it?
I don't know.
Do you want the Dark Lord's soul inside of you?
I would be so popular. Harry Potter would be hunting me all the time.
What?
I'd be so cool. Everyone would want to know who I was because they're all hunting for the Horcruxes. Be the most popular I've ever been.
I don't know. Most of the Horcruxes went undiscovered, and 99% of the wizarding world was completely unaware of them.
Matthew,
for the
we
longest
don't
time.
have time to debate the small fractions of Voldemort's soul that may or may not be in my cup of tea. We have so much tea to spill.
You all know what I got in my cup.
Unbranded Diet Cola drink.
I unbranded Diet Soda X in my crappy blue glass cup, ladies and gentlemen. There it is.
It's a mug.
Sure,
It's
great.
festive. It goes with tea time.
So, like we mentioned at the top of the show, even if our lips weren't in sync with the video, luckily this is a podcast, so that might not have affected you anyway. Haha. Audio-only formats are great. Sorry, this is deviating, because I had a really good segue, but now I just want to deviate. I read an article today that if YouTube only delivered audio for its videos, like if it was only like an audio-only platform, or it limited the amount of video that people saw, you would actually reduce YouTube's carbon footprint by like some massive, like 300 million carbon unit, whatever they measure it. It's fascinating.
Don't say that. All the groups will come after them and we won't have any videos to watch anymore.
Well, it would save
really
us on
thinking
editing
that.
costs, Steph. Think about
That's
that.
true. It would save us a ton of editing. That would be super, actually. YouTube, get on it. You're killing the earth with all those servers.
Stop killing the earth with your servers, YouTube. Audio only.
Is it
Radio Tube.
In fact, that's why we made this podcast. It's more environmentally friendly.
Right, we're very green over here. But anyway, no, as I was saying, and like we alluded to at the top of this episode, that last week we were gone at the Creator Summit at Brandcast, and we talked about this briefly, but basically what that is every year YouTube will invite 100 to 150 of like the top channels in a lot of different verticals, gaming, beauty, vloggers, car channels, whatever, kids and family, to New York to get together and hear like motivational speeches, learn about the latest comings and goings of what's going on YouTube, get their questions answered.
And the most important thing, sit in the same room as all the YouTube advertisers so that YouTube can point to the group of YouTubers who are there and say, look, advertisers, look at our creators. Here they are. It's like monkeys in the zoo.
Yeah, and then you're there and you wave. And then that's it. That's what you do.
We're there.
And then you get Dua Lipa to perform for you, which
That's
was the
true.
big every year, because it's whining and dining the advertisers, right? It's
you want to impress them so that they spend lots of money on YouTube and we get to pay our mortgage.
So it's one of those things where, it's more of a show. Like, it's like, look at all the cool things that are happening on YouTube. People know what's kind of going on YouTube. They're not teaching anyone anything new, but then they end it with like, and here's relevant music artist of the year, and it's like, whoa, I know this person. And so all the advertisers get this like moment of like, look at me being cool and hip with this very modern act. And so this year they had Alicia Keys, not really a modern act, but
she's a national treasure. I actually love Alicia Keys. I think she's like not only a great singer, but a great person. But she's a tremendous singer. Unfortunately, I was cornered at one end of the room with someone screaming in my ear because everyone was so loud, and I couldn't hear a thing that was going on stage while she was performing. I missed like the whole thing. I like heard Alicia Keys vaguely in the background, and I was like, Alicia Keys, I want to be listening to you, but this person is just yakking. Anyway.
Then and then the other one was Dua Lipa.
Yeah. Who is also very good in person.
Indeed.
I thought so. Anyway, so that was a fun event. What else is our opening? Anything else to say about that? We saw Kris Jenner. She was very inspirational.
Kris Jenner, aka the mother of the Kardashians.
Yes.
In case you're not super familiar.
And basically the person responsible for the Kardashians. Honestly, if we're honest about it, I mean, all of the Kardashians individually have to be very self-motivated and self-driven to succeed. But they are
self-made billionaires.
She's
Stephanie.
kind of the linchpin. She's also like the ultimate.
I'm shaking my head.
Some
of them are.
Yeah. She's also, I think, like the ultimate testament to like the fact that you work with people you trust, right? Because Hollywood stories are full of, people getting screwed over by managers, agents, people having these terrible experiences, and just getting like steamrolled in business, and it's really sad because people get taken advantage of. But if your mom is your manager, chances are at least a lot less that she's screwing you over, because ultimately like the whole family benefits if one or two of them do well. So I mean, she really cares. She's like the same person as as you see on TV. I have to call out this one thing though.
Yeah.
She said in the room, one of the pieces, like best pieces of advice.
Too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Go for it.
So one of the best pieces of advice that she said she's gotten, or that she gives to people, is, and I'm calling this out because it was like a revelation to people in the room. It was, and these are like the biggest, most influential YouTubers on the planet, and they all were like, "What?" This was her advice. She was like, "Make sure you have a plan B." Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Always be like thinking about what else you can do. Don't count on like the thing you're doing to last forever. Have a plan B, like a backup. And it was like light bulbs went off over people's head. Like this was like the most revelatory thing anyone had ever heard. And we like looked at each other and we were like, well, duh, come on. If you're not like trying to do other things, trying to diversify, trying to do other projects, what are you doing? Anyway, so it was one of those moments where we were like, come on, guys. Everyone in here should know this.
I mean, I don't know. Like, think about it. A lot of the people in that room are young.
Not all of them.
Not all. No.
Some people
certainly not
are
all
old people like us.
But also a lot of, I mean, I don't know. We're
old 30-year-old ladies.
Steph
like
and
Jenna Marbles.
Steph and I are paranoid, right? We are like
highly.
We have contingency plans on contingency plans on contingent. We are the Emperor Palpatine of YouTube, right? Like
in so many ways.
For those of you who don't know, I'm in the middle. The reason I bring that up is because I'm in the middle of researching a Star Wars episode for Film Theory about Emperor Palpatine's contingency plans, and like it's not really talked about in the movies, but this guy has like 5, 6, 10 different things of like, if I die prematurely, this is what you guys need to do in order to make sure that like my influence lives on, or like the universe can't live without me, this and that. It's actually fascinating. It might come into play in the new Star Wars movie, in fact, which is why we might be covering it on a Film Theory episode. But for us, like, we always compare it to like having hooks in the wall, right? Like if you are a rock climber, you want a decent number of hooks in the wall or in the rock face, because if one hook gives out, you're caught by the 2 or 3 others that are firm in the wall. And so on YouTube, where things are constantly shifting and changing, and there are new algorithms and filters and this and that are rolling out on a regular basis, things are getting prioritized or deprioritized. It's quicksand. It is a tricky platform to make a living off of. And so for us, we were very late coming onto YouTube, doing it full time as a career. Like most people do it at like 100,000 subscribers or whatever. We were at 3 million before we started doing it. But also, so that in and of itself is unusual. But also like the fact that, we have the consulting business, which we talk about a lot. The fact that we make a lot of connections with other industries and we help out other businesses. So that way, if things fall away, we still have our YouTube expertise and people who find that valuable that we can hop into, right? So those and then we have a lot of other stuff too, but all of those, each and every one of those is a hook in the wall to try and future-proof yourself.
Yeah, you build yourself a safety net. But apparently that hadn't occurred to so many people in that room. Anyway,
the other thing I was going to say about Kris Jenner, which was great. Again,
not our Kris. Not dear Kris Paul.
Dear Kris,
up
who
there.
is behind
his
us.
His picture is right there. You can't really see it.
But he's slightly off camera today.
Yeah, it's on the wall behind us.
He's on vacation, just like real Kris.
Yeah, if you're just listening to this, he is usually a picture on the wall behind us.
But the other thing that she said that I thought was really, really interesting was, and I think she's a really good testament to this, right? Is she's like, our TV show started when I was 50, right? It was, or like around the age of 50, right? And the TV show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, was really the thing that changed the trajectory of their lives, right? Like she was, Kris Jenner was wife to like a very famous lawyer who participated in the O.J. Simpson case, this and that. But like they were never stars. They were never like really like, they were kind of like tabloids every now and then, but like they weren't anything that people were like, they weren't billionaires. They weren't all this stuff. And then all of a sudden they started this show at the age of she started this show at around the age of 50. And, it's been running for 15, 17 years, whatever. And it's one of those things. It's just like the trajectory of their life has changed so much. And so the message that she had was like, it's never too late to start or to pivot what you're doing, right?
It was a great message.
And it's great. It is. And like in that moment, it really struck me. I was like, wow. I mean, she was really old when that started, and look at what she is now.
Relatively. Like, I mean, I think people don't think of 50 in the way that they used to think of 50. Like, 50 is kind of like the new 40 or whatever. But like, I don't know. But I mean, she showed that, when a lot of people would be like counting the years to retirement, she's like, I'm just getting started, which is awesome.
And she was quite literally just getting started, because that was, those were the years that really started all of the daughters' careers and stuff. So it was really fascinating. She was a really good person to listen to, and I thought she had some pretty interesting messages. Yeah. So it was fun. The other thing real quick about Brandcast that I think is worth calling out, that I think was interesting for you guys to know about.
Okay, we have to get to it because the chat is very excited about Sonic.
We're going to talk about Sonic, but we want to spill all the tea. And I think the other interesting thing about this one was, because, on this series, we talk about like YouTube issues, YouTube related issues, where YouTube's head's at, what they're talking about, this and that. And the thing that both Steph and I were really struck by this year was, you rewind to the Brandcasts of the last year or two, and all of them were very much like, here are the celebrities who are participating on our platform. Here's the Will Smith show. Here's the LeBron James show. Here's here's James Corden on stage to sing about our next presenter or whatever. And this year, there was almost none of that. Like, it was very, very minimal in their presentation to all these advertisers. This year, it was very much about like, hey, here are our YouTube creators. Here are some of their personal stories about how YouTube has changed their life. Here's the influence that they have. Here's the subscribers that they have. Here is, the businesses that they've built for themselves. It was very much a complete 180 from where it had been in years past, where it was very much like celebrity, celebrity, celebrity. This year was, hey, there are native creators on this platform who are doing really cool things that you, advertisers, should pay attention to. And I think that was a nice change to see. I'm wondering if it was because, from a business standpoint, maybe the celebrities were too expensive, quite honestly, and weren't getting the yield that they were looking for. I think maybe part of it was YouTube's been feeling a lot of heat from the creator community over the last 2 years, where it's like, hey, what about us? We helped build this platform. The YouTube Rewind didn't go over well. What about the trending tab? Why are you promoting all these other people and not people who actually just believed in what YouTube stood for in the earliest days before it became popular? Yeah. I think there's a lot of things at play, but I did think that it was very interesting to see them really touting and celebrating us, like us as creators. And I mean all of us, big, small, whatever. Whether or not that translates to their actions, we'll see. But I think it was very telling that this is kind of their big stage of the year, right, in front of all their advertisers. And so for them to kind of ride that line was, I think, a very strong statement and a very hopeful statement for the creator community who's been kind of nervous about where YouTube's head's been at for a while.
Yeah, good on them for that one.
Great.
All right. Okay.
Should we talk about Sonic?
Yeah, the chat's really excited about Sonic. Why... up to this point, I would say Sonic has not given us a lot to be excited about.
He's in Smash Brothers. That's exciting.
Well, sure.
So
I'm talking about the movie.
So okay, let's talk about Sonic. So again, piggybacking off of the Brandcast discussion, our main topic of the day is Sonic, right? So we land in New York last week.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as we land in New York, like
literally on the bus ride from the airport to the hotel,
yeah,
we have the other creators who are in the car with us who are like one of the Funhouse guys, Lore DIY, like a few other people.
Craig aka Mini Lad.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was Eugene from the Try Guys too.
Oh yeah.
Everyone. The first conversation that everyone, it'd be like, hey Matt, hey Steph, did you see the Sonic trailer?
Yeah, or what are you guys going to talk about the Sonic trailer? Like is your next video on the Sonic trailer? And we're like, on the what?
We're like, wait, did the Sonic trailer happen? And they're like, yes,
Have you not seen it? Have you not seen it? And it literally dropped like while we were on the plane, and by the time we had gotten to the hotel, like 6 people had asked us if we were going to do a theory or if we had seen it or like what our reaction to the Sonic trailer was. And we were like, I guess we should watch it now.
And we did.
And we did.
And we cringed.
Yeah, hardcore.
First off, okay, there's a lot to talk about with the Sonic trailer, from the design to what our feelings were, to the news that now they are changing the design of Sonic in the wake of all the public outcry about it. So Steph, give me your thoughts on the Sonic trailer.
Okay,
first.
so I thought there was very little to like. There was a lot to be concerned about and here's the thing.
I can't imagine why you would say that.
I will be completely honest. I'm like not even that big of a Sonic fan. I did not play the games growing up. I appreciate Sonic. I appreciate the fan base that Sonic has built over the years, and I understand to a degree, like people not wanting their IP to be messed with. That said, we mess with people's IP all the time on Game Theory. That's like the whole shtick of the show. But
not mess with. Well, maybe.
But that
being mess with it in this way.
But that being said, even just from a moviegoer's standpoint, who wants a video game movie to succeed, that's my standpoint.
Right.
I just want a video game movie to succeed. I'm using air quotes here. Eggman,
Robotnik,
Dr. Robotnik, like I don't even understand. I don't even know where to begin. I enjoy Jim Carrey. I really like Jim Carrey.
I love Jim Carrey.
But I didn't see that character in him at all in the trailer.
What, you didn't see evil Russian robotic scientist?
The scene that they gave us of him talking to the sergeant or whatever, like it didn't even make sense. It wasn't funny. It also wasn't compelling. Like, I didn't want to see more. In fact, I wanted to see less. And then the design of Sonic was like, yeah, I mean, I had the same reaction as everyone else. It looks like a guy. So this is the way I was describing it after I saw the trailer. It was like, you have these people who dress up as like the fake characters in like Mickey Mouse and Sonic and other characters like that in Times Square and on Hollywood Boulevard here in Los Angeles. And Sonic just looked like he was one of those random people who is out there dressed up like a character who's going to charge somebody $5 to take a picture with them. It was so cringeworthy. That said, Matthew has a theory about this whole, like the whole slew of Sonic movie leaks, which I completely buy into. I buy into this conspiracy theory. I think you should talk about it.
What, as far as the leaking because they were unsure of things?
Yeah. So your whole premise, you have to explain this. Because,
this continues from a previous T-series, which is the fact that I firmly believe that in a lot of cases, if studios are unsure of the directions that they're taking, they will leak stuff out, and it'll be branded as a leak, and it'll go through some official, it'll go from some like unofficial channel, from some account somewhere that has never posted or is rarely posts or whatever, and then it leaks out, and then it's like, oh, the new Sonic design leaked or whatever. They'll judge the fan reaction on Twitter, and then they'll either, if it's positive, they'll be like, here it is the next day, or a couple days later, or if it's negative, they'll be like, well, that wasn't official, it was only a leak, don't believe it, guys.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that they've been doing that with Sonic this whole time. I think that they've been very unsure about how this character is going to come out, and so that's why they've been so slow to reveal anything about it, and why they've been like really kind of slowly dripping this stuff out, because they know that they're like, I don't know how we feel about this, so let's just kind of slightly seed it out there one step at a time. Just the legs and his back,
Right.
with the rest of him in silhouette, with just his feet over the San Francisco Bridge or Golden Gate Bridge. People are kind of mad, so maybe we should dial back his his hamstrings or whatever. Like, let's make him look slightly different. It didn't work, clearly. Here's the thing. Yeah, he looked like a man dressed in a cheap costume of Sonic. And it's funny because there's a lot of Twitter accounts that have done, in the aftermath of the trailer's release, like the redesign of him. And the thing is, it feels like they're too afraid to make him cartoony. And to really lean into this idea of him being this, like, cartoonish character. Like, in the trailer and in his design as it exists in that trailer, like, his hands are big and white, but not, like, comedically big. And so you just get, like, this awkward, white-furred, slightly big hand. You get Sonic with, like, very masculine or very human-esque legs.
It's like the Chuck E. Cheese version of Sonic. It's just weird.
It's like a cheap rip-off costume that you would get at, like, Party City has official costumes too, but, like, I think of, like, the cheap rip-off costumes of, like, Five Nights at Freddy's characters that you see circulate the internet and stuff, and it's like, this is clearly not an official outlet, but all right. The eyes are slightly too small for the size of the head.
Of course,
like,
that's the big thing that's been pointed out.
He doesn't have the attitude. Like, everyone was like, oh, the teeth freak me out. The teeth don't bother me at all. I think everything else about that character is the problem. And the best Twitter redesign, I was trying to look for it here, but my internet's giving me a bit of a problem. You've probably seen it because it got, like, just a bajillion retweets. But what they did was they shortened him. They made him actually, like, comedically proportioned, so that way his arms and legs are, like, straight thin. They don't look humanoid because he's not supposed to be a human. He's supposed to be, like, a hedgehog cartoon character. Right. And, and actually exaggerated the hands and feet and eyes so that way he's more expressive and he feels different. Oh, there it is. This is the one.
There it is, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so you can see he looks much more cartoony on the one on the right. And if you're just listening to this, Jason, can you call out where that came from again?
Yeah, that was on Twitter from Edward Pun. It's at Edward Pun 1.
At Edward Pun 1.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a great redesign. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and look it up. But it turns Sonic back into the character that you see in the video games.
Right. Like, that's the thing. And it's interesting because as people have been picking this apart and looking at, like, what's wrong with him or whatever, everyone's like, oh, he's furry, kind of in the same way that
That a furry is furry?
No, that the Pokemon and Detective Pikachu are furry. And it's like, and people are like, it worked for Detective Pikachu, why not here? He's supposed to have quills and spines or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, the texture actually doesn't really matter so much. It's the proportions that are the problem. And you saw, if you're listening to it, you didn't see it, but, like, you could look it up. But it's one of those things that you see it in this image of you just need to differentiate him from the human form.
Yeah. All that said, that there have got to be a few people on that art design and animation team who are literally just like, dude, I told you so.
I guarantee there's some.
There were people who were in there who this whole time they were like, I don't know, guys, we're working on this, but I see some problems here, and there have to have been some, like, and unfortunately, like, they're working overtime now to, like, change this asset.
Yeah, so I think that leads to the other, and real quick, as we're talking about the trailer as it currently exists, right? The Jim Carrey stuff seems weird to me. I think Jim Carrey as a Dr. Robotnik in general feels weird. Like, I think doing a John Goodman or someone who's, like, big and can like pull off like an intimidating villain, you know, who has like a large presence. Jim Carrey is funny for his physical comedy, but Robotnik is not a comedic character. That's what all the Sonic cast is for.
So here I would argue that Jim Carrey actually does have a pretty big menacing presence in some of his films. Think of him as Count Olaf in the movie version of Lemony Snicket. So in that one, and I love oh God, what's his name? Who does it in the show?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, I love Neil Patrick Harris in that role as well.
On Netflix.
On Netflix. It's great. If you don't watch it, you should watch it. It's great. But in the movie, Jim Carrey played Count Olaf, and I think he actually did a very good job in that role. He does
villains well.
And he was super sinister, so I don't think you necessarily have to be super physically imposing, but for this character, again, we're used to seeing very specific proportions from Dr. Robotnik, a very specific look and feel.
I mean, he is literally called Eggman and looks like an
egg.
Like,
yeah, that's the whole point. And so if he doesn't embody that physically, it's difficult to put him into that role.
Well, and also he's a mad scientist, right? And I think that that's the other thing here is even if he doesn't have the physical shape of an egg or like this big imposing presence, though I think he probably should, and I think that is kind of why you need the contrast of him to Sonic. The other part of it is he's just like an evil, maniacal villain in a lot of cases, and this idea of Jim Carrey being, you know, this physical comedy, let me do the robot, and just kind of like I get what he's going for, which is like, I am intellectually superior to you, military guy. Like, I am too smart and I'm not going to be outsmarted by this hedgehog. Like, I get that. I get that that's what they're going for. I get that that is a valid way to take this story, and I think, you know, that is bolstered by the comics and the video games. Like, that makes sense to me. But I do think that you need some level of menace or threat that he provides that, as far as what we've seen in the trailers, you're just not really seeing all that much of.
So, do you have hope for the future in the redesign?
So here's the thing, right? So they've been public in the aftermath of this being so poorly received. The directors come out and said, like, hey, we're going to redesign, right? So here's a tweet that we put up on screen for those of you who are watching the video version of this. But Jeff Fowler on Twitter says, thank you for the support and the criticism. The message is loud and clear. You weren't happy with the design and you want changes. It's going to happen. Everyone at Paramount and Sega are fully committed to making this character the best he can be. So that's the question, friends. Does this worry you? Does this show that there is no artistic integrity behind it? Like, everyone's just like, well, whatever.
No,
we can change it.
See, here's the thing.
No big.
I think it's here, on the one hand, if your conspiracy theory is true and they've been leaking stuff in order to specifically solicit like fan reactions before they finalize anything, I actually have to say, I respect that strategy. Rather than keeping everything locked behind closed doors away from the fan base, which is the core of people who really care about this and will either super support it or super not. Even if it is just a strategy, like a marketing ploy or whatever, I can respect that. And the fact that that people who are producing mainstream media are at least willing to have a dialogue, at least willing to get on Twitter and be like, hey, we acknowledge that criticism exists, which a lot of times movies and TV shows don't even do. We not only that, but like, we hear you, we appreciate your criticism. No one got defensive. No one was like, well, you should let us artistically reinterpret this character and Sonic needs to move on and blah, blah, blah. This character's 30 years old. Like, no one did that.
Kill it if you have to.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Kill him if you have to. The past Sonic must die. Kill him if you have to.
Right? It wasn't one of those moments. He was like, we're committed to doing the best that we can. And like, hey, if they're willing to try, we've also tangoed with the Sonic fan base, and if he's willing to get in there and like get his hands dirty with the people who really care most about this character and are going to like lean in on what it, you know, the look and feel of the design, I respect that.
Honestly, I know that there's a lot of people online who've been talking about this and saying like, oh, this shows that there's no artistic integrity behind this movie, that there is no clear vision, that they're willing to throw it away just because they got some pushback from the internet, and that means that there's not a strong head behind this thing. That may be true. Like, let me just say that out front, right? That may very well be true. Looking at the plot of this movie, it seems a weird usage of the character in much a similar way as the Mario Brothers movie from the 1980s was a weird usage of the Mario Brothers, where it's like, let's just grab two guys named Mario and, make them plumbers, but like, let's make Yoshi into a baby raptor and Bowser into a weird T-Rex gangster man and Goombas as like it's weird. Like, instead of gaining mushrooms, let's get them bouncing high on like fungal growths in the sewer or whatever. It was weird. If you have never seen the original Super Mario Brothers movie from the 1980s, watch it. It is a ride. Is the best way to describe it. It is a ride of what are they thinking? It's enjoyable for what it is. I think it's fun to watch because it's just so out there. But it's not what you would expect from a Mario movie. Sonic, as this currently exists, with the rings being like teleport systems and like Doctor Strange-esque portals to other worlds, that's weird. Didn't know that really the rings did that. Although I guess they teleport you to bonus worlds now that I think about it. But anyway, it's
if you
weird.
wink and squint a lot, this totally fits in the Sonic canon.
And Sonic like being shoved into someone's duffel bag and being mistaken as like a child who's stuffed in it. The comedy in this feels off for what you would expect from a Sonic movie. I'll give it that. But I do respect them for respecting the fan base enough and for wanting to deliver them a movie that at the very least they won't be viscerally mad about, right? Like, if there are a lot of this movie is probably already shot and done, like, I think we kind of got to face that. But if they're willing to like be able to make changes to the stuff that they can make changes to, and if it's something cosmetic like the look of Sonic, I get that, right? Like,
so the two things that the chat has pointed out are, one, that the story could still suck after the redesign of Sonic, which is absolutely true.
I would not be surprised.
There's no way to save that. But the other thing that's
like
pointed out, which I actually brought up earlier today with Matthew, and I just didn't know, because I was like, won't that take a ton of time and money to redesign Sonic? And I was like, it's redesigning every single scene, isn't it? And what you pointed out, well, and while I do think it's probably quite costly, yeah, very costly, it probably involves a lot of manual man hours from people, so not discounting that in any way. I'm sure there's a lot of that. One of the things that you pointed out is that with digital assets, sometimes you can change the design of a digital asset, like we do this in our episodes, for instance, and if you basically just re-upload the file into basically into the editor, it'll replace every instance of that character or design with the new file.
Yeah, I've never
now
actually,
CGI I'm sure is much more complicated, but hopefully there's some stuff there that can be done.
Yeah, basically the long and short of it is, and I've never, I'm not super familiar with 3D modeling. That's beyond me. I know some of the editors on the team here do know it, but it's not something that I'm super familiar with. But at least when I was editing in two-dimensional assets, right, if you go back and change the original Photoshop file or the original asset, it changes. So like, say for instance, I've got a white line around me, or I've got some like remnant of the background that we didn't erase properly or whatever. If we go back to the original asset file and erase it or clean it up, and then resave, it changes every instance of that asset and keeps all the animations and this and that largely intact, right? And so you can fix stuff fairly quickly when it comes to that. Now, 3D animation, right? You're going to have to correct for like the shading, and especially if they're kind of redesigning the shape and movement of his body, that's going to adjust a lot of stuff. Like if you're affecting the boning of how he animates on screen and the way he moves, like if you make him shorter, that's going to affect a lot of things. But like, I think that there are probably some shortcuts there that will help ease that process. It's still going to be costly. It's still going to be time intensive. But in a lot of these cases, too, like we've seen early release DreamWorks movies before, like in test audiences. And what they'll do when they show them test screeners is there are like partially completed scenes that are still in storyboard form or still in like rough animation form. And so the stuff that's finished might only be the stuff that's finished that you see in the trailer, right? And then from there, they can go back, take the feedback, and apply it to the rest of the movie because, you know, it was still in its earliest phases before they invested all the time and money to reshading, recoloring, this and that. So
yeah, we've seen a number of movies like that. We
saw Turbo
and Peabody and Sherman. And some of what we were watching were literally just still pictures on the screen with the voice and like the voice acting over top of it. It's very cool, actually. If you have an opportunity to go, it's not, you don't pay to get in. It's not because we're YouTubers. It's actually, now we can't get into those kinds of things.
We technically can't do them anymore
because we're public figures, but they look for just people who want to go see a movie for free
and give feedback.
And yeah, and then you fill out a survey afterwards, and you know, you do a good job filling out a survey, and they invite you to another one. So if those exist in your area, you can like look them up and sign up for them. They're very cool to go to.
Yeah, like I know Endgame had some test audiences. Like they're very hit or miss. Like a lot of times they won't tell you the movie in advance because they don't want to color your judgment, but they'll be like a family-friendly movie from this studio who also did X, Y, and Z. And so sometimes you can figure out what it is and decide if you want to go. But it's very cool, especially for animated features, because you see the process as it's being done. And you get to see kind of like, wow, we're 3 months out from release or whatever, but they're still asking for feedback and there are still scenes that aren't done. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy actually how last minute some of them to come together.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was yet another example of the Sonic the Hedgehog team leaking something out or presenting something, getting feedback from the audience, this time very public negative feedback, and being like, okay, we're going to adjust it. And at this point, they really don't have many places to go but up. Like, yeah. I think that's the other thing about this, right, is people at this point are like it was such a vehement negative reaction to it. They can only do better. Like, it would be shocking. I don't think they can do worse. You've had so many artists come out and be like, this is how I'd redesign him. You've had so many people say these are my problems with X, Y, and Z. I totally see that being the case. So at the very minimum, they're going to get a bunch of feedback of, well, it's better than it was. And that's a win, right? That's a big win. As far as the plot of the movie, yeah, I'm skeptical. I was gonna say I'm cautiously optimistic, but I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
No.
All right. Anything else to say on Sonic before we move on to talk about Jake Paul?
Are we talking about Jake?
I think so. You better, man.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Do we have to? We are spilling the tea.
Yeah. So
that's Sonic. Let us know in the chat what you think.
Yeah. Now we're moving on to some juicy YouTuber gossip. / other like related, I don't know, YouTube party gossip. Isn't that kind of weird?
It's very weird.
So in case you
YouTubers partying, don't we all just like hide out in our basements at this point?
Right. So in case you had better things to do with your life, which hopefully was the case, and didn't know that Jake Paul had a huge rager at his mega mansion in Calabasas, which is like, I don't know, 45 minutes away from where we are or something like that.
Used to be closer.
Used to be closer, actually. We moved further away from. No, I'm just kidding.
He moved to the neighborhood, and we're like, no,
that's
not.
No, not at all. So, but he did hold a huge party. He vlogged about it. He did a lot of Instagram like stories about it and stuff. And he did it for a rapper friend of his. But there were a lot of, big names on YouTube who were in attendance,
as well as celebrities.
Traditional celebrities. Lamar Odom and Tana and other people.
Bella Thorne.
Bella Thorne.
I don't know. I only know Lamar Odom because I watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians the season that he was like cheating on Khloe.
Right?
Jerk.
Poor Khloe.
Jerk.
I just can't like. Poor
Khloe can't catch a break.
I know,
yes,
right?
I know a lot about the Kardashians.
And
Way
you
too
should
much
too.
mind
They are
space.
very smart. Anyway, so reportedly after that, there have been a number of actually independent reports, as well as one like sort of more major report of girls, especially presumably underage girls, ending up in the hospital at the end of the night because of like drug-related incidents or or being drugged at the party, something being put in their drink. them having a bad reaction, them having to be taken to the hospital. There's one like mom that posted on a forum, like a local forum here in LA, about her daughter and like 8 other girls from this party being hospitalized. There are other independent reports of people going to the hospital, noise complaints, the fire department having to show up, a whole bunch of other stuff related to like the unruliness of this party. And it's like, on the one hand, it's a party. I don't think anyone was really shocked that it like got out of hand, or that it might not have been like as well controlled as it should have been. And with someone as high profile as Jake Paul, I'm sure you like, it's obvious that you would have like hundreds, if not thousands of people trying to like pour through the gates into this thing. He does not hide the location of his house at all. Like it's a place where if you wanted to show up and try to crash, you probably could. So on the one hand, I'm sure that there was more than he could ever probably keep up with in terms of like safety and security. But it did spark some interesting stories on our side as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right?
From the ragers that we throw. Just kidding.
All our super hot parties. No, it's interesting. Just because the thought of these like LA parties brought me back. So first off, we do not go to parties that frequently.
We sometimes go if they're Christmas parties and there's a secret Santa.
That is very accurate.
Or
like
a Yankee swap. We go to puppy parties.
It sounds like we only go
to
to parties where we can like stand the chance of winning a game of some form.
We go to a Game of Thrones watch party. We've been to an Oscars party. I'm trying to think.
But not like a house party, right? Like even
They're
back in
not our
college,
jam.
I was not the type of person who was going to like the frat parties to get crazy. That's not what we do.
I rescued a lot of friends from frat parties. I drove a lot of people home kind of like disabled in my car.
Right, you were the DD.
I occasionally fished a friend or two out of a bush where they fell over, that kind of thing. Like, so we were not the people like doing the things. We were the people sort of like making sure that the people who did those things didn't die.
In college, I was the RA who was throwing the let's play video games and listen to jazz music in the hallway.
Oh, we threw fondue parties for our halls occasionally, where everyone brought a snack and we brought the chocolate and everyone got to dip stuff in chocolate.
The non-alcoholic parties.
And
that
play
was us.
apples to apples.
And apples to
it
apples
was fun.
Is true.
So that was
that
our
was
life.
us. In general, we
But
don't
we do
like.
get invited to stuff, which is very nice, but we don't go.
We tend not to go, and part of it is one like loud party atmospheres isn't one that like we necessarily gravitate to, but then two, especially when it comes to situations like this Jake Paul situation, right? So the internet in the aftermath of this is like, oh, there's Jake Paul again, being irresponsible. Did he drug people? Was he a participant in drugging these underage girls and whatever happened to him or things like that? And so like Jake Paul's canceled. He's not canceled. But you see that sort of discussion happen. The two things to say about that. First, one of the reasons why we don't go to parties outside of not enjoying them is because stuff like this happens in parties in and around LA. And
I'm sure they happen everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
But they're pretty well publicized, and you get a lot of people showing up to them if they're here.
Well, not even that. Like, this is Tea Series, so we're spilling the tea, right? Like, this is the true stories from people who've seen probably way too much, or have heard stories through the grapevine of things that probably shouldn't be happening, right? But YouTube is an industry filled with a lot of young people.
And by like young, we don't mean just like children. We mean just like, teenagers.
Yeah, tweens and teenagers,
Yeah.
right? Who get sudden surges of popularity on their YouTube channels or Instagrams or whatever, but again, are young. They're not over 18. They're not over 21. Mr. Beast just turned 21 today, in fact, which I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was that. He's so tall in real life.
He's
6'3".
it's unfair how tall
Right,
some of these people are.
A lot of these YouTubers are just super tall. But anyway, and what ends up happening? This is Hollywood, and this is the celebrity lifestyle or whatever. So you have a lot of these young kids who are being thrust into these situations where a lot of times they can be compromising situations. I have heard through the grapevine of businesses who are looking to wine and dine the next generation of YouTuber, vlogger, fashionista, whatever. Like, I've heard it for a lot of these, where they knowingly have underage people at these events that are unofficially connected to certain businesses that operate in this space and are giving them alcohol and giving them access to this stuff, right? Like, people who should know better and people who would be held legally responsible if this were to come out, like, actively doing this to impress these young celebrities,
and
these young influencers.
And just in case it's not clear, it's not just like, hey, kids could get in trouble for being caught with alcohol and drugs. You actually put yourself at incredible legal liability and risk, not only for throwing the party, but just for even being there. Like, we have our good friend Gerard, who, like, you guys know or may know over on The Completionist. He told us a story from a couple of years ago from an event that we were at, from a party that we were invited to, but that we didn't go to. But he was like, I showed up and the host of the I was there and there were like 16, 17-year-olds there, like, doing drugs and like and like, you know, all kinds of stuff that you're not supposed to do under 18 or 21. And he went to the host of the party and the host knew what was going on. This is like a person who's, you know, a businessman who's in the space and whatever. And he was like, I couldn't be there. He was like, I had to get out of there. And he left immediately, because if he's even in the room with that stuff happening and he's an adult, but these other people aren't, and there's all sorts of illegal stuff going on, he's like one of the people that's held responsible. You can't even be in the proximity of stuff like that happening without being held like legally responsible or being detained by police. So it's just so deeply not worth it. And also just, you know, it's very hard to police a party that's as big as something on the scale of what Jake Paul would throw.
Well, right. So so that's the other side of this, right? Is, you know, for people being like, oh, it's Jake Paul's fault, this and that. Like, if you've seen any of the videos of how big this party was, like, he can't take responsibility for all the people there and what they may or may not be bringing and what they may or may not be be. I mean, granted, he would be held responsible, again, because it is his party.
House, it's his property, house. Like,
that's, again,
all of that
this
stuff.
Is part of the reason why you don't throw big parties in it, because the legal liability for you is tremendous.
So if he were being like really legally responsible, what he should have done is have a bouncer at the door, not let anyone in who's not over 21. And, you know, I'm sure there would still be like plenty of illicit activities going on, even if he did that, is the thing. But that's basically what, you know, he quote should or like would have done if he were really trying to like make sure to limit his liability as much as he could. But if you're going to throw a party that big, you kind of know, you should know that what will be going on will not be above board, and you will not be able to control who is 18 or who is 21 when they're coming in the door. And it sounds like the girls who were sent to the hospital were probably not even 18. Like, this was the mom who was like, watch out for your like teen daughters, like you know, make sure you know what they're doing, because they could end up in these situations. And it's not like this is not implying that like Jake Paul would personally prey on any of these girls at all in any way. It's just, you don't know who shows up at that party, you don't know what they're bringing with them, and, you know, if there's are a couple of shady characters there who are willing to take advantage of people, it's very hard to control that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think the sad truth of this one, right, is in a business filled with a lot of young people, and where the celebrity culture and this like Hollywood party atmosphere is very prevalent and very appealing to a lot of young people, there are businesses and older adults in a lot of cases who are willing to take advantage of that by, like, you know, offering that sort of stuff or making available those sorts of activities to impress those young, to look cool, to be like, oh, you want to do business with me, or you want me as your manager, representative, agent, whatever, because look at me, look at how cool I am, look at what I can do for you, look at the cool stuff that I, you know, the cool and dangerous things that I'm able to expose you to. And to a lot of the young kids out here who don't know better, who are still young, who are still figuring this out, it's very easy for them to kind of fall into that, and their lives get derailed by in a lot of cases, or like these business people, it's skeezy. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of times we learn about this stuff and it's like, really, LA, really, Hollywood, really, entertainment, like this is just skeezy and gross.
I mean,
and are you okay with that?
It comes down to people. I mean, in this case, it is ultimately at the end of the day, it's like, really, Jake Paul, like you knew. But on the other hand, I'm of two minds about it, because you can't control everything that goes on at something of this scale. On the other hand, you should have tried to control it a little bit more, because you knew that this would happen. Like you knew.
And it's also one of those things too, like, and also, let me just also we're lampshading a bunch with this one, but it's like, it's one of those things where we also recognize, hey, there are plenty of under 18-year-olds who do all sorts of stuff with them, and that's fine. Like, hey, you do you, but we're talking about, like, if you are the person who's responsible for, what's up, Jason?
Jason is peeking
in.
in.
For you to finish that sentence.
But if you're, thanks, Jason. But if you're the type of like, hey, you do you, but if you're the person who's,
your mic is muted. Someone's mic is muted.
Wait.
What?
I don't know. Jason's giving me the eye. Stephanie's reading that we're muted on camera or something.
Okay.
I hear you.
There you go. Perfect. Right. But anyway, long story short, if you are the person who is just be careful if you're throwing a party, ladies and gentlemen, because the risk is great, and it's not worth it.
Yeah, take care of yourself.
Like, it's not worth it. I don't know. Just hang out in the basement and play video games and watch movies.
Don't hang out in the basement. There's a lot to do in the world that just doesn't involve, like...
Yeah, go do other stuff.
That just doesn't involve, like, putting yourself at a huge risk.
Are parties actually fun? Like, I don't know.
No, but that's not the point. But in college, like, I knew girls who got roofied. I knew girls who got into terrible situations because they didn't have a friend there who was looking out for them, or they didn't have, like, a good system in place to, like, make sure they were safe. At the very least, just make sure that you know who you go to stuff with, you know who you're coming home with, and you have someone to, like, watch your back. Because realistically, like, if you want to go out and experience stuff, you're like, do it. Like, go out and experience everything you want to, but, like, make sure that someone knows, who you are, what you're doing, and goes with you. That's all.
Segue to Jason. Jason, what's up?
Yeah, what's up,
Jason?
I just wanted to give you a fact check on it.
Ooh, fact check by
Please
Jason.
do.
So the mom that posted...
Can people hear you, by the way?
That her daughter is early 20s.
Okay.
But it doesn't say anything else about the other 8 girls, and you are correct that she was putting this out there for moms about their teenagers and young adults. So there's probably a good chance that there were some underage people there, even if her daughter wasn't one.
Yeah.
There you go.
There. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Adding the facts. So she was not underage, but no matter what your age, you just want to watch out. If you're 21, if you're 25, you should still take a buddy.
Right? It's dangerous
just
out there.
Still do the buddy system, man.
Especially those YouTuber parties, man. Watch out.
Right?
Okay. So that's those are some fun stories. The other one that I wanted to talk about today is the big announcement around PewDs canceling the subscribe to PewDiePie meme. Now, at this point, the subscribe to PewDiePie meme had kind of like crested the hill. T-Series had kind of surged ahead and was pretty... T-Series, us, we had surged ahead and was pretty definitively in the lead at this point. So it was already kind of like the heat had cooled off of it, because the kind of inevitable conclusion of, hey, it's just so difficult for a one person or kind of like small YouTuber-led business to compete against this giant, Indian behemoth, breathing down his neck for so long. And it's impressive, like, it was impressive that they were able to sustain for as long as they did. PewDiePie, but that he was able to sustain for as long as he did. But so already subscribe to PewDiePie was cooling off, but in the aftermath of a lot of the negativity that had surfaced around the subscribe to PewDiePie meme, he canceled it and asked he went on one of his videos and basically told everyone, hey, let's cut this out. It's not fun anymore. And that was largely because of the big attack that happened in New Zealand.
Yeah. So I feel really bad for for Felix. I think he's in an unbelievably difficult position for a lot of reasons, but and it's something that I didn't really think of, but that he talked about in his cancel subscribe to PewDiePie video, where he was like, I saw that guy, who committed an atrocity in New Zealand said subscribe to PewDiePie before he murdered a bunch of people, and he did it for the publicity and or whatever reason he did it, that probably had nothing to do with PewDiePie. But I can't imagine what we would have gone through if for some reason that person had gone in and said subscribe to Game Theory. Like, could you imagine?
Or but hey, it's like or using one of the catchphrases
or use a catchphrase
yeah.
From any YouTuber. I can't imagine what impression that would leave us with, and how much we would feel the impact of that for a long time, right? I don't think we would sleep. I think we would be in therapy. Like, just to know that person who would do something like that knew who we were, had seen stuff that we had done, and would say something like that. I can't imagine, and I feel a lot for Felix.
I mean, I actually can imagine, right? Because I know how hard it hit us and me when we learned that there was a boy during the Hurricane Harvey hitting the U.S. that he had gone missing. Alongside the rest of his family, and was shown wearing a Game Theorist t-shirt. Like in the news coverage of him, he was wearing his Game Theorist t-shirt. And like, I mean, even thinking about it now, like I'm getting choked up and emotional about it because, and that's just one person, right? And so to know that something that
and that was a victim,
and that's a victim, right? That's not
that
even
wasn't a. So yeah,
100%.
It's a whole other level if it's the perpetrator of a crime, of someone who is an evil person, and I mean a true, like, there's no question, an evil person, who would say something like that,
right? And so, and like Steph said, I think Felix, you really, he's in this impossible position, right? Because everything that he does and says is scrutinized, and it can be used to support him. It can be used against it. Like, obviously, no person ever intends for something like that. Maybe a couple people out there do, but like Felix would not be one of those people who's like intending to like raise up an army of bros. But like, you get it. Right, where it's at no point was there any sort of like malicious intent to anything that he's done in a lot of these cases. And, I think people can have misconstrued some of his past actions as, oh, this does have negative intent. Oh, he does want these sorts of things to happen. But it's no. And I think it's one of those things that, like, to have someone use your name to justify
or even
some
just
level of violence,
be associated with some level of violence. Yeah,
right.
It is unimaginable.
And also to take something that was fun and positive and was such a great force of unity on YouTube in a lot of cases, right? Like,
it definitely went too far in some instances, right? But there was a lot of fun with it, and people like Mr. Beast and others made it very positive, and it did not ever skew into the realm of racism or white supremacy or something like that, or any negativity towards Indian people or Indian culture. And so people like him made it all about positivity, fun, and celebrating Team Internet. And yeah, just to see it undermined like that is a real shame.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's just so sad to see what was a very bright spot. And I think I mean, we got involved with the whole thing, like what it stood for, as far as this idea of like, hey, creators matter, having a creator on top is meaningful. Like, I don't think anyone would have reasonably acknowledged that, or like would have reasonably thought that like this changes anything about how YouTube as a platform operates, right? Like whether it's T-Series or PewDiePie or, you know, Ariana Grande or whoever is the most subscribed channel on YouTube, it doesn't matter. But I think it was more about like uniting as a community around this one thing, and that was, you know, embodied by the subscribe to PewDiePie moment. And it was nice, and it was fun, and it had a lot of people like exercising their creativity, and it gave rise to a lot of cool moments. You know, we did stuff on TikTok a lot about, like, I enjoyed it because I really believed in like a lot of what it stood for. And so but it only takes one person to ruin it, right?
Yeah.
And just like corrupt what it really was. And it's sad. I think that's the saddest thing is like, I mean, it's not the saddest thing. The saddest thing is the loss of human life. Let me be very clear about that. But I think it's also just, not only was it a tragic loss of human life, but it's also a tragic loss of what was a very positive and very cool community-driven thing that ultimately, you know, won't be able to be looked at without this like dark shade over it. Like what was a bright spot for YouTube ends up being kind of, you know, something that you can't talk about because it'll be brought up and it'll be immediately associated with, well, then what about New Zealand?
So, and I mean, the long and short is like, I think agree with all of the sentiment that PewDiePie expressed about that movement. It's a shame to see it go, but like completely understand why he would feel that way. And, you know, it's also kind of, it's nice in a way that I get the one like silver lining is that he kind of got to decide when it was over. It didn't fizzle out because people weren't like necessarily interested or whatever. Like it was like still sustaining in a lot of ways. But it was, and it didn't, you know, I don't know, it didn't have some other like weird end that was out of his control. He basically had the ability or the power to say, hey, enough is enough. I don't want to see this used for bad. And I think people have largely respected that. I haven't seen the movement kind of continue. And the thing was, it served its purpose and it proved its point. So in a way, it was successful. And then PewDiePie actually got to decide when enough was enough for him, and his community respected that, which I think is actually a really important thing that people haven't mentioned. So anyway.
We're paying a moment of silence.
This is a podcast. There can't be moments of silence.
That's actually very true. Good point, Stephanie.
So
A+.
So that was that one. Anything else we need to cover? And by the way, for those of you who are asking, where's the Sonic? Just go ahead and rewind. We spent about 30 minutes talking about Sonic. There's plenty of Sonico content in there. And then we've sprinkled some other fun topics that we were really excited about sharing with you around it. So hopefully you will stick around.
Best Jim Carrey movie, going back to the Sonic.
Ooh, best Jim Carrey movie.
Clearly Sonic the Hedgehog 2019.
It's very hard. The first one I saw him in was The Mask, and I watched that movie about 300 times.
The Mask is phenomenal.
It's a really good movie.
I like him in Liar Liar a lot too.
That's a good one. Oh no, wait though. I like some of his dramatic roles a lot.
Yep.
Like
Jim Carrey's really talented.
What's the one where they watch him all the time?
Truman Show.
The
one of my
Truman
favorite
Show.
movies of all time.
The Truman Show is fantastic, and I even really liked him in Man on the Moon.
Oh yeah,
where he plays Andy Kaufman.
Kaufman.
He does the Andy Kaufman biopic. Actually, we watched a documentary about it. He was a nightmare to deal with behind the scenes of that movie because he was a method actor, and so he literally embodied either Andy Kaufman or some of the other characters in that movie, and he was just dreadful on scene. He was the worst. He hurt people's feelings. It was terrible.
Which makes me wonder, his portrayal of Dr. Robotnik, how is he being method? Is he shoving small animals into robotic bodysuits? And that is his method acting for the character of Dr. Robotnik?
Warn all the squirrels on set that they need to run for the hills.
Because, hate to break it to you guys, but that is not working, at least based on the trailer that we saw. It's not really paying off there.
Oh, Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind was pointed out by Kev Doug,
That's the
too.
thing, like, Jim Carrey, like
Bruce Almighty calls out Joey Musquets. There are
Jim
a lot
Carrey's
of really great Jim Carrey movies.
great. Like everyone kind of always associates him with like the physical comedy that's like over the top and larger than life, like Dumb and Dumber and stuff. But man, he's got a deep roster. I think Jim Carrey is great, and I think he's in a lot of cases underappreciated. Like when people are like, he was really good, and I think history's written him off as like, oh, he was just that goofball. But like, he's got some good stuff.
Yes.
The last drop of tea here, Stephanie.
Ooh, what
good,
is it?
Good to the last drop of tea. The Met Gala is something that just happened, which is cool that we're able to talk about it on the podcast live. So the Met Gala just happened, and it's.
I'm pulling up our pictures.
Thank
from
you.
it.
Please do. This is something that is, for those of you who don't know, and this is something that Stephanie kind of taught me about recently, but it's this big to-do shindig that happens.
Can't believe you didn't know about the Met Gala.
Why would I know about what the like uber rich do?
I don't know. We lived in New York for a couple of years. It happens.
We did
in
go
New
to the
York.
Met, but
Yeah, and we went to the Met. We love the Met.
yeah, I
The
love the
opera
Met
is
for the
great there, and the museum is wonderful.
I love the Met for the cheapy like tickets that you can get 2 hours before the opera, so I can go see some Benjamin Britten in the nosebleeds. That's what I like the Met for, because I appreciate opera a lot. I really do. I love opera. But anyway, the Met Gala is basically this huge ball that happens every year. It's invite only, so it's very exclusive to get into, and it's like $35,000. If you are invited, it is $35,000. I think a ticket.
No way, really?
I saw.
didn't know.
I saw us. Right. That's correct, Jason.
If you're invited, whoa. So wait, okay, true tea. Would you do it?
Well, maybe I wouldn't have to, because YouTube this year invited a couple of top creators to go. So you have YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki. You have Robert Kinsel, who's their head of business.
Yeah.
But they invited
CMO?
our good friends, or at least people that we talk about on the podcast a lot.
We like-
James Charles, who we've never met.
Yeah, we've never
Liza
met
Koshy.
James. Who we have met and like
And like a lot.
quite a bit.
Lily
but
Singh.
She's also working with Vogue, which she did last year as well. So she returned to that. Lily Singh, who we also know. We just saw her last week. We like her a lot. Who else was in there? There were two other people who I didn't actually recognize, but they were also there. I'm sure the chat can fill us in. And they got to go, which was, I think, one, it's awesome that YouTubers were represented, or YouTube was in some capacity represented with digital first celebrities, which is what they are. And, I'm only just a little bit bitter that we didn't even know that they were taking people.
Yeah, I'm sure that.
Not that I was on the list, not that Matthew was on the list. I wish we could have known.
We just spent a bunch of time talking about how we don't go to parties, Stephanie, and here we are talking about this $35,000 a plate gala.
That doesn't encourage people to invite us. Actually, we attended 2 different galas last year, and they were actually really fun.
They're very cool.
It was a good time. They're always to raise money for charity, which is why everything is egregiously expensive. They're usually raising like a huge amount of money for some cause, and that's has something to do with the ticket price. But I'm not letting you squirrel out of this one. Would you do it?
Well,
if
here's
you were invited.
Hold up, because we still haven't really set this up properly, right? Because the Met Gala, not only is it's this once a year egregiously expensive event for charity, but it's also, in my opinion, the most interesting, exciting, like costume ball or like fashion event that happens of the year, right?
I
Like
think
you have
it's
Fashion
fair
Week
to
and stuff,
say
and
it's
like
a costume ball.
it is a costume ball, right? Each year has a theme attached to it, and so the attendees not only have to pay an egregious amount to attend this thing, they also have to come looking
incredible,
unbelievable,
like works of art. They have to come looking like they could be a museum piece, essentially. I mean, that's truly what it boils down to. And usually it's associated with the General Museum and the Met Fund, but also specifically the Met Fashion exhibit. So usually there's an associated exhibit that rolls out after the Met Gala, that usually the Met Gala attendees get like a preview of it and stuff, so that it has different themes, and you can go and see like historic fashion pieces or like artistic fashion as part of this.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen any pictures from this thing,
You totally
Jason, do we
should.
have any to pull up?
Yeah, we totally have some. Where would you like to start?
Pull up a really like good example of like just a completely over the top ridiculous
One that
costume
you like,
someone
maybe
wore.
this red one. Yes, exactly.
This
Do you-
one's great.
do
It
you know
looks like
who
she's
that
wearing
one
a
is?
comforter.
It's Cardi B.
Okay, so this is Cardi B.
Again, if you're just listening to this,
So we just pulled up her dress, which has like this enormous shoulder feather boa thing. She has like a red cap on. The entire thing is red, and it looks like she's wearing about 8 red comforters all around her, and she's got a radius of like 10 feet going around her with this dress.
I see this dress and it makes me think of the covers of Dr. Seuss books.
Yes, me too.
Where
we
Dr.
read a lot
Seuss-
of those to our baby.
Yeah, maybe that's why. But like Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go, like the iconic cover of, a creature standing on top of like a giant like pillar of circles.
Mixed with like Red Queen Alice in Wonderland meets the evil queen from Snow White.
But like here's the thing with this is the idea of not only is it expensive to get in, now you're also having to pay to either rent or have crafted a highly designer, very artistic, avant-garde dress or outfit to wear to this thing to make it worth your time and worth the press, right? Because if you walk down the runway at this thing and you're looking kind of secondhand, if you got it from the thrift store, if you got it from the Banana Republic or whatever, like it ain't gonna fly, friends. Like it needs to be, like Stephanie said, an art piece.
A lot of designers will team up with the celebrities who go to create these one-of-a-kind artistic fashion pieces. Maybe we can pull up Katy Perry, which had one of my favorites of the evening. She's the chandelier. There we go.
There it is.
Yeah, she's wearing, so again, think art piece and not necessarily like normal fashion. She is
like
a
one
candelabra.
It's one part Halloween, one part like look at all our money and this is what we're choosing to do with it. I'm gonna dress like a chandelier.
Yeah.
So Katy Perry dressed like a chandelier apparently last year, I believe, as I was reading the updates on this. Last year she was a hamburger. I believe she was a hamburger.
And every year there's a theme. So this theme was camp, which I think is less interpretable than some of the others that have happened. And I think Lady Gaga actually was one of the people who interpreted it literally for one of her outfits, where she literally came in a tent. But then it's also like campy, like over the top, overdone, sort of comedically
tongue in cheek.
Tongue in cheek, yeah, exactly.
Like purposely exaggerated for like humor or parody.
Yeah.
And so the Cardi B look would be a really good example of camp, right? Because it's playing off this idea of like an elegant evening gown with a long train, but like to such an extreme degree that like the train is made out of these comforters. It's so egregiously long that it's comedic.
It's funny.
It's campy.
Yeah. Lady Gaga had 3 layers of outfits. So she started with one, she stripped down to another dress, she stripped down to another dress, and then she stripped down to her underwear, all on the red carpet. So some people go like, it's an art piece, it's a performance piece. Anyway, I'm glad that YouTube was represented.
Yeah, it's cool to see. So I believe this is year 2 or 3 that YouTubers have started attending. I believe Liza's been there 2 years. I know Casey Neistat was there 1 year. It's good to see YouTubers being invited to this thing or starting to show their faces at this thing, because I think that, again, like any chance there is to kind of break down the walls of traditional celebrity and digital influencer is a good thing, because it just merges those worlds and allows what we do and what you know, as viewers appreciate, or like it breaks down that stigma, right? Any
Hey,
chance that you
Jason?
have, it's a good thing.
Can we pull up the Zendaya look? That's what everyone is requesting, and we'll try and describe it. But that's okay if you can't pull it up in time. That's fine. So anyway, there are several looks that are worth checking out.
That being said,
Okay, go ahead.
And I will. Here's me spilling the tea. Quite honestly, I think right now it's hard for YouTubers to compete. Like, it's a tough role to fit. Like, this is a hard event. Like, this is one of the like bougiest of bougie things that happen in the year when it comes to like celebrity events, right? Or at least the bougiest of bougie publicly facing ones, right? Like I'm sure there's stuff that like is even more costly and even more exclusive that doesn't hit the Twitterverse, you know, that is only for the people in the room where it happened, right? The people who are in the know. That being said, this is a publicly facing one, and as a result, there's a lot of coverage of it. It's, you know, it's a red carpet, so people are judging looks. And I think YouTubers have yet to find, like, it's hard when these things cost, like, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. I think it's hard for YouTubers to compete right now, or like have the fashion connections or whatever it takes to get some of these outlandish art pieces commissioned for them or whatever. Because, you know, you look at the scale of like the Lady Gagas of the world, the Cardi B's of the world who are pulling out these things, and you look at what like some of the YouTubers are wearing, and it's like they're good outfits, but you're playing in the big leagues at this point. And I think
it doesn't get like more expensive or more high fashion than this, basically.
Yeah. And so I think it's one of those that YouTubers are starting to break down that wall, but it's going to take one who's just willing to shell out or knows the right people or whatever to actually like be one of the people that everyone's talking about on that red carpet.
Yeah. And by the way, just because people are asking in the chat, we are not going to pass judgment, I don't think, on like our opinions of the specific YouTubers' looks. James and Tana did a video where they judged people's Coachella outfits right after Coachella, and I personally found it like a little bit distasteful. I don't know. It didn't sit really well with me, so I'm not personally going to be commenting on what I thought of the outfits, but it is really cool to just go and look at the slate of outfits. It doesn't matter if you like them. It doesn't matter if you don't. They are all interesting.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, would I like to be invited to this sort of thing? Absolutely. I think it would be cool to see.
Okay, so you would go. You would buy the ticket.
I
unashamedly, if I could possibly get 35,000 spare dollars, I would do it. I would do it because it's a once in a lifetime thing. It's a once in a lifetime thing. I would really try. I would really try to do it.
Like we would do, like I would have to do however many extra brand deals to make it happen. But
Right.
like I think for a once in a lifetime event, considering like if everything else in life is stable and good and whatever, and Ollie's taken care of, and we're comfortable in our financial situation. And the opportunity arose, like, I think
you try and make it happen.
I think you try to make it happen because it's a once in a lifetime thing. It is. It's like such a rare. It's like when we went to Club 33
in
Disneyland. Like we
would do someone invited us and we got to go, and that was awesome. Or like when we were invited to meet the Pope, that was incredible. Like you just. Even if it's...
You drop everything.
Yeah, you drop everything. You drop everything and do it. There are a few things in life that are just like that. And for me, this would totally be one of those things. Totally.
I don't know. But on the other hand, we were just talking about how we hate parties and...
I don't care. I would tough it out through this one, and then I would go home, like get in my pajamas, hide under the covers for the next day, and just watch movies.
That sounds delightful.
I've been catching up on the old Marvel movies. They're very good, actually.
They are. Iron Man holds up incredibly well.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things. So like to the idea of passing judgment, right? Like would I like to have been invited there? Absolutely. Would it be an interesting experience to do? Absolutely. And so who am I as like YouTuber sitting on his couch right now to pass judgment on people who are at this like highfalutin event? I don't want to tear people down. I don't want to like critique them. I think I can critique them as art pieces. Like, and I think that's the way to look at it, right? Yeah. Is, you know, do I think this costume is better than this costume? Yes or no? Like that's the way I think to look at it. But to say like, oh, it's a fine line. Like I think I appreciated Cardi B's look more than I appreciated Katy Perry's because I thought Katy Perry's was a bit too on the nose. Like stuff like that. I think Lady Gaga dressing like a tent is smart because it takes the theme and turns it on its head in a very literal way, in a way that I appreciate. Like as an artist, as someone who is looking at a piece of art, I appreciate that tongue-in-cheek sense of humor, right, for this sort of event.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'll comment in the whole of like across the YouTuber outfits. I think it's just hard to compete when you're competing with like some of the biggest names in the world who are just raking in the money. So I think like the scale of the YouTuber stuff was a lot more scaled back relative to the other, big headline getting outfits that were there. And I think that's just kind of like a fact of where everyone's like even the most successful YouTubers are still in a lot of ways light years from where these big music acts, these big actors are. And, hopefully that gap closes or whatever, and so they're able to do it, but it's
Hey,
tough.
you got to start somewhere.
Were you able to find Zendaya or no?
Oh, there we go.
Ah,
okay.
the Cinderella
so
dress,
pulling it up on screen. If you're listening to this and not watching it, it does look very similar to what Cinderella wore in the 1950s Disney version. It's blue. It has big puffy shoulders. And it's sparkly and kind of iridescent metallic. It's pretty cool. I like it. It's
a good one. I think it's one of those ones that finds a middle ground of not being so over the top, but it's still a wearable, functional dress.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we should probably end it there.
We should.
We've spilled the last drop of tea, and we're gonna wrap it up for today. But we will be back on Thursday.
We will be back Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully we will see you there. And that's it. So we'll have a new film theory coming out on Thursday, and then new game theories coming out this weekend. So hopefully you'll be around to watch them. We'll be back on the couch on Thursday. Hopefully you had a great week. It is good to be back, sitting on the couch with you guys, spilling the tea, and playing some games. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, remember that's
what was
that's
our
just
catchphrase?
We had a catchphrase.
Good to the last drop. Jane.
That's just a podcast. Cheers. Where were you aiming, Stephanie?
I don't know.
You were aiming forward, but my cup was coming off the side.
I was gonna give you a little knee bump or something.
It's fine. Let's say goodbye.
Cyani Green says bye, guys. Tarnish Dragon says bye.
The teacup is empty.
ZGamer408 says bye.
The library has closed.
Q-Tip 101 says goodbye.
Ooh.